Hey everyone! Welcome to our cozy little corner for bedtime stories. Tonight, I'm diving into 4 incredible Greek myths about gods, heroes, and so much more. Perfect for you to listen to as you unwind and drift off into a peaceful night's sleep. If you're fascinated by mythology and love stories told in a light, soothing way, go ahead and give this a thumbs up. It really helps us keep creating content like this for you. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new tale. Most importantly, before you tuck in, drop a comment below. Something as simple as "watching this before bed" works great. Your comments inspire us to bring you more stories and help this content reach more people. It's our way of saying thank you for joining us on this beautiful journey through myth. Your support makes all the difference. Now get comfy, fluff up your pillow, and come along with me on this adventure into the world of Greek gods and heroes that'll guide you into a night of amazing dreams. Story 1. Zeus's rebellion against Cronus, the dawn of time and the birth of the Titans. In the very beginning, before the universe had any shape or order, there was only chaos, a primal state of emptiness, disorder, and infinite potential. Chaos wasn't a place or a being, but a boundless void where nothing had form, and all possibilities swirled in an endless abyss. Greek mythology starts its creation story here, in this undefined moment, where the world was waiting to be shaped and organized. From this chaos emerged Gaia, the personification of Earth itself. Gaia is the fundamental force of nature, the solid, fertile ground that sustains all life. She's seen as the primal mother of existence, a goddess born from chaos, who gives rise to other forms of being. Alongside Gaia came Uranus, the sky, symbolizing the vast heavens that stretch over the earth, defining its boundaries. Together, Gaia and Uranus formed a cosmic bond, representing the union of earth and sky, feminine and masculine, the infinite potential that sparks all creation. From their union came the Titans, the first generation of colossal, powerful gods who embodied the primal forces of nature and the cosmos. They were the rulers of the universe before the Olympian gods rose to power. Among them, Cronus stood out, the youngest but, paradoxically, the most ambitious and cunning. Cronus and his fellow Titans governed a wild, still-forming cosmos, but their order was fragile, marked by tension between generations and the fear of a greater power emerging. The Titans personified universal concepts. Oceanus represented the waters encircling the earth, Tethys, the fresh waters, Hyperion, the fire and light, Rhea, fertility and motherhood, and others, like Mnemosyne, who embodied memory. Each Titan played a vital role in the balance and function of the world. Greek mythology reflects a vision where cosmic order arises from the interplay of these elemental forces, constantly interacting. Cronus, however, holds a special place. Unlike his siblings, he becomes a central figure in Greek mythology by challenging his father, Uranus, and later facing his own children, the future Olympian gods. His rise to power and rebellion against Uranus mark a turning point, symbolizing the shift from an old order to a new era. This family conflict, from father to son and then son to son, reflects a profound view of life's cycles, power struggles, and the inevitable replacement of generations. The story of the Titans' emergence isn't just a mythological explanation of the universe's creation. It's a mirror to humanity's deepest concerns: the relationship between order and chaos, the inescapable succession of generations, the fear of losing power, and the desire to control fate. Exploring this origin reveals that Greek myths are rich with symbolism, speaking to the human condition, the nature of the cosmos, and the universal conflicts that span all of human history. Cronus's rise and the prophecy of his fall. Cronus's ascent to power is one of the most dramatic and symbolic moments in Greek mythology. Feeling oppressed and betrayed by his father Uranus's tyrannical rule, which kept the Titans imprisoned within Gaia's womb, Cronus plotted a rebellion. With the help of his mother, Gaia, who was furious at Uranus's cruel treatment of her children, Cronus was given a sharp sickle. He waited for the perfect moment to strike. When Uranus descended to unite with Gaia once more, Cronus used the sickle to castrate him, severing the sky from the earth and symbolizing the end of the old order. This violent, decisive act freed the Titans and allowed Cronus to claim the throne as the supreme ruler of the cosmos. After seizing power, Cronus married his sister Rhea, the goddess of fertility and motherhood. Together, they gave birth to a new generation of gods: Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, Poseidon, and finally Zeus. But Cronus's reign was overshadowed by fear and paranoia, especially after a prophecy foretold his downfall. An oracle declared that one of his own children would overthrow him, just as he had overthrown Uranus. Terrified of losing his power, Cronus took drastic measures. As soon as each child was born, he swallowed them whole to prevent them from growing and challenging him. This cycle of violence and fear created an inevitable tension, as Cronus's attempts to defy fate only set the prophecy in motion. Rhea, heartbroken by the loss of her children, devised a plan to save her youngest, Zeus. She hid him and tricked Cronus by giving him a stone wrapped in cloth to swallow instead. This act not only saved Zeus but sparked the rebellion that would forever shift the balance of power among the gods, paving the way for the era of the Olympians. Cronus's rise, steeped in violence, ambition, and fear, is a rich tale that explores universal themes like generational conflict, the fear of losing power, and the inevitability of fate. The prophecy and Cronus's struggle to avoid it highlight the tension between free will and destiny, themes that resonate across cultures and stories worldwide. Cronus's fear and the devouring of his children. Haunted by the prophecy that one of his children would overthrow him, Cronus resorted to extreme measures to secure his power. As soon as each child was born, he swallowed them whole, ensuring they could never grow to challenge him. This brutal act claimed his first 5 children: Hestia, goddess of the hearth and harmony; Demeter, goddess of harvest and fertility; Hera, future queen of the gods and goddess of marriage; Hades, lord of the underworld; and Poseidon, god of the seas and waters. Cronus's cruelty plunged the cosmos into an atmosphere of fear and silence, where the new generation of gods seemed doomed to vanish before they could even exist. While Cronus perpetuated this cycle of brutality, Rhea, his wife and the mother of these children, was consumed by despair over their loss. Unable to bear the thought of losing another child to her devouring husband, Rhea sought desperate measures to protect her next baby, Zeus. Knowing she couldn't confront Cronus directly, she crafted a cunning plan to save her son and deceive her husband. When Zeus was born, Rhea handed Cronus a stone wrapped in cloth, which he swallowed, believing it was his child. Meanwhile, Zeus was hidden away in a cave, where he grew up safe from his father's watchful, ravenous eyes. This episode reveals not only the cruelty and desperation in the struggle for power, but also underscores Rhea's maternal love and ingenuity. The story of Cronus devouring his children carries deep symbolism about the fear of change, resistance to the new, and the inevitability of life cycles, where younger generations replace the old. The tension between preservation and destruction, love and fear, sets the stage for the cosmic revolution that would follow with Zeus's rebellion, a shift that would usher in the era of the Olympian gods. The birth of Zeus and a secret hope. Faced with the despair of losing her children, Rhea saw Zeus's birth as her last chance for change and hope. Determined to save him from Cronus's voracious appetite, she devised a clever plan to trick the devouring father. At the moment of birth, instead of handing over her newborn, Rhea wrapped a stone in cloth and gave it to Cronus, who swallowed it without suspecting the deception. This maneuver not only saved Zeus's life, but also marked the beginning of resistance against Cronus's tyrannical rule. Zeus was secretly taken to the island of Crete, where he was protected from all dangers. There, he was raised in hiding by nymphs who nurtured him with care and devotion. These mythological guardians of nature ensured Zeus grew up in a safe, fertile environment, far from Cronus's reach. Alongside the nymphs, Zeus had a special caretaker, a legendary goat named Amalthea, who fed him with her milk and sustained him through childhood. Amalthea is often seen as a symbol of nourishment and protection, representing the vital force that fuels the future and sustains hope. The time Zeus spent growing up in secret was crucial for him to become strong enough to face his father and fulfill the prophecy looming over Cronus. The story of Zeus's birth and hidden upbringing carries a powerful message about survival amid oppression and the quiet strength of hope, even in the darkest circumstances. This narrative inspires the idea that no matter how grim the situation, there's always the possibility of rebirth and transformation, a theme that resonates deeply in Western culture and endures across generations. Thus, Zeus's birth wasn't just the arrival of a new god, but the dawn of a new era, filled with promises of change, justice, and renewal. The protection offered by Rhea, the nymphs, and Amalthea symbolizes life's perseverance against oppressive power, foreshadowing the cosmic revolution that would follow in Zeus's battle against Cronus, the clash between the old order and the new. Zeus grows up and plans his revenge. As Zeus matured on Crete, strengthened and sheltered by the nymphs and Amalthea, he began to grasp the full weight of his origins and the destiny awaiting him. Over time, he learned he was the son of Cronus and Rhea, and that his older siblings had been swallowed by their father to thwart the prophecy of his downfall. This revelation instilled in Zeus a profound sense of purpose and responsibility, to free his siblings and restore justice to the cosmos. Determined to confront his father and fulfill the prophesied destiny, Zeus sought allies to defeat Cronus, whose strength and power were immense. Enter Medusa, a goddess of wisdom and cunning, who helped Zeus devise a plan to force Cronus to regurgitate his swallowed siblings. Together, they crafted a magical potion that, when given to Cronus, would make him vomit everything he had consumed. When Zeus administered the potion, Cronus expelled his siblings in order. First the stone he had swallowed in place of Zeus, then Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon, all still alive and intact within his stomach. This liberation symbolized the breaking of oppression's cycle and marked the start of a new phase in the struggle for power between divine generations. The recovery of his siblings wasn't just a physical victory, but a defining moment that established Zeus as the leader of the new generation of gods. Through this clever strategy and courage to challenge his father, Zeus showed that brute strength, while important, needed to be paired with wisdom and planning. This combination laid the groundwork for the war that would forever change the universe's fate, signaling the end of the Titans' reign and the rise of the Olympian gods. The story of Zeus's rise is more than a tale of revenge. It's a profound narrative about overcoming ancestral fears, the importance of unity and support among siblings, and the need to confront the past to build a just future. This story continues to captivate because it touches on universal themes like power, justice, intelligence, and the eternal struggle between the old and the new. The War of the Gods, Titans versus Olympians. The Titanomachy, the epic 10-year war, was the decisive clash between the ancient rulers of the cosmos, the Titans led by Cronus, and the new generation of Olympian gods, commanded by Zeus. This wasn't just a physical battle, but a symbolic struggle for control of the universe, representing the transition from the old order to a new era of profound change in divine power. After freeing his swallowed siblings, Zeus rallied the Olympians, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon, to confront the Titans' tyrannical rule. The Titans, led by Cronus, wielded immense power and ancestral experience, making the war long and grueling. The Titanomachy was marked by fierce battles, complex strategies, and alliances that would determine the universe's fate. A pivotal moment in the Olympians' victory was Zeus's decision to free two powerful races imprisoned in Tartarus, the Cyclopes and the Hecatoncheires. The Cyclopes, one-eyed giants and skilled craftsmen, gifted the Olympians extraordinary weapons: Zeus's thunderbolt, Poseidon's trident, and Hades's helm of invisibility, which became essential in battle. The Hecatoncheires, monstrous beings with 100 arms and 50 heads, provided unmatched brute force, tipping the scales in the Olympians' favor. With these strategic alliances, the Olympians turned the tide against the Titans. The combined power of the Cyclops' weapons and the Hecaton Chira's devastating strength allowed Zeus and his allies to overpower the Titans, forcing them to retreat and eventually imprisoning them in Tartarus, the deepest, darkest prison of the cosmos. The Titanomachy wasn't just a war for power, but a defining moment symbolizing the eternal cycle of destruction and renewal. It shows how the transition from old to new generations is inevitable and necessary for progress and the natural order. This conflict shaped Greek mythology and profoundly influenced later stories and beliefs, shaping how Western cultures view authority, revolution, and change. The Olympians' victory under Zeus's leadership solidified his position as the supreme ruler of the gods and ushered in an era of new values and rules, still resonating in many Western stories and symbols today. The gods' weapons and Zeus's victory. During the brutal Titanomachy, one of the key factors in turning the tide was the gift of weapons forged by the Cyclops, giant craftsmen freed by Zeus from Tartarus. Recognizing the need to equip his allies with powerful tools, the Cyclops created unique weapons that became symbols of each god's power and authority. For Zeus, they forged the thunderbolt, a devastating weapon capable of unleashing immense electrical discharges, representing not just physical force but dominion over the sky and natural elements. The thunderbolt symbolized Zeus's absolute control over the heavens, weather, and divine power, making it an unbeatable weapon against the Titans. Poseidon received the trident, a three-pronged weapon tying him directly to the seas and waters of the world. The trident allowed Poseidon to control storms, trigger earthquakes, and rule the oceans, elements critical to the war and maintaining nature's balance. Hades was given the helm of invisibility, which granted its wearer the power to become unseen by enemies and mortals, enabling stealthy movements and surprise strategies in battle. This weapon symbolized dominion over the underworld and the unseen, making Hades a formidable force in the conflict. Armed with these legendary weapons, the Olympians gained supremacy over the Titans. The combined destructive power of the thunderbolt, the maritime strength of the trident, and the cunning of the helm of invisibility gave them a decisive strategic advantage, culminating in the Titans' defeat and imprisonment in Tartarus. The Olympians' victory marked the end of the Titans' era and the start of a new order led by Zeus, who solidified his place as the supreme ruler of the cosmos. The gods' weapons weren't just tools of war, but eternal symbols of the power, justice, and authority each sibling held in the new pantheon. They also represent the idea that strength, wisdom, and strategy are essential for achieving and maintaining power. This moment in mythology highlights the importance of unity and cooperation among the gods, as well as the need for each to have a specific role for collective success. Zeus's victory, aided by these powerful weapons, remains one of Greek mythology's most iconic episodes, echoing through Western culture as a story of triumph, leadership, and world renewal. The fate of the vanquished, the Titans' punishment. After a long and exhausting war, the Titanomachy ended with the Titans' definitive defeat. Cronus, their leader, and his followers were imprisoned in Tartarus, the deepest and darkest prison of the underworld, reserved for the enemies of the new Olympian regime. Tartarus was a place of eternal torment, surrounded by impenetrable walls and guarded by fearsome creatures, ensuring the Titans could never again threaten the cosmic order established by Zeus. This imprisonment symbolized not just the Titans' physical punishment, but the suppression of an ancient era and the imposition of a new order governed by justice and balance. The Olympians' victory wasn't just about seizing power, but ensuring that the tyranny and chaos of the Titans' reign wouldn't return to threaten the universe. Among the defeated, Atlas stands out for his unique and symbolic punishment. A Titan who fought against the Olympians, Atlas was condemned to an eternal burdensome task, holding up the sky on his shoulders. This sentence was not only physically grueling but also carried immense responsibility, representing the weight of his rebellion against the new order. The image of Atlas bearing the sky became a powerful symbol of endurance, strength, and the burden of duty. His punishment illustrates that even the defeated have a role to play, however painful and arduous. Atlas is remembered as the Titan who, despite defeat, keeps the world in balance, literally carrying the weight of the universe. The Titan's punishment serves as a lesson about the consequences of insubordination and the pursuit of power without justice. It reinforces the idea that order must be maintained for the cosmos to function harmoniously. This narrative resonates with universal themes of responsibility, sacrifice, and the harsh consequences of rebellion. In the broader context of Greek mythology, the fate of the vanquished reminds us that in every transformation there are winners and losers, but also a necessary balance to preserve the greater good. The imprisonment in Tartarus and Atlas's burden are integral parts of this story, marking the end of one era and the beginning of a new age of governance and stability under Zeus and the Olympian gods. The new divine order, Zeus's reign. With the Titans' defeat, Zeus ascended to the supreme throne of Olympus, ushering in a new era for the cosmos and the gods who would now rule its realms. His leadership marked not just a shift in power, but the organization and structuring of the world according to a more just and balanced order, breaking with the Titans' ancient tyranny and chaos. To establish the division of domains among the Olympian gods, Zeus gathered his siblings and, through a lottery, divided the universe into three great realms: the sky, the sea, and the underworld. Zeus claimed the sky, ruling over clouds, winds, lightning, and all atmospheric phenomena. This position made him the most powerful god, guardian of justice and cosmic order, governing gods and mortals with supreme authority. Poseidon received the sea, becoming the lord of oceans, rivers, storms, and earthquakes. His power over the waters was immense, capable of granting calm to sailors or unleashing hurricanes and tsunamis to punish mortals. Poseidon's domain was vital to ancient civilizations, especially those reliant on navigation and maritime trade. Hades was given the underworld, the realm of the dead, where he ruled over the souls of the departed. Though often seen as grim, Hades was a just and necessary god for balancing the cycle of life and death. His realm was a mysterious, inevitable place where all souls eventually passed. This division of the world among Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades symbolizes the importance of balance among nature's forces and life itself. Each god assumed an essential role in maintaining universal order, reinforcing the idea that shared and respected power creates stability and harmony. Zeus's reign on Olympus was marked by wise and firm governance, establishing divine laws and maintaining order among gods and mortals. He became the arbiter of conflicts and defender of justice, ready to punish transgressions and protect cosmic balance. The new divine order also brought forth a new generation of gods and heroes who inhabited Olympus and the mortal world, directly influencing human life and the fate of nations. Zeus's reign thus represents the start of an era of stability, progress, and organization that shaped Greek culture and mythology for centuries. Zeus's power and the division of the world with his siblings established a structure reflecting the universe's complexity, showing how balance among different forces is essential for harmony and the continuation of existence. This new divine order remained the foundation for countless stories, beliefs, and teachings that have endured, influencing Western views on power, justice, and governance. The legacy of Zeus and the age of the Olympian gods. Zeus's rebellion against Cronus didn't just result in the Titans' defeat. It established the Olympian pantheon, which became the cornerstone of classical Greek mythology as we know it today. With Zeus as the supreme god of the sky, thunder, and justice, a new era of divine governance began, profoundly influencing ancient Greek culture, religion, and worldview. Zeus was seen as the ultimate arbiter of the universe, responsible for maintaining order among gods and mortals, enforcing justice, and protecting cosmic balance. His reign established a clear hierarchy on Olympus, where each god had a role and domain, forming a cohesive and organized system of deities. This new divine order gave rise to a rich tapestry of myths, stories, and teachings that have endured for centuries, shaping Western literature, art, and philosophy. The age of the Olympian gods is thus the starting point for classical mythology, with narratives that continue to fascinate and inspire the modern world. With Zeus's legacy, Greek mythology gained structure, meaning, and lasting influence, paving the way for stories of heroism, morality, and the dilemmas of gods and mortals that populate this vast mythological universe. And so, we conclude the saga of the rebellion against Cronus, ready to dive into the next tales from this rich pantheon. Story 2. The Hero's Tale, Perseus and the Head of Medusa. Perseus is one of Greek mythology's most iconic figures, renowned for his heroic deeds and central role in one of antiquity's most captivating stories. His origins are steeped in mystery and magic, as he is the son of Zeus, king of the gods, and Danae, a mortal of great beauty and noble lineage. Perseus's birth is considered miraculous because his mother was imprisoned by her father, King Acrisius of Argos, who feared a prophecy that he would be killed by his grandson. To prevent this fate, Acrisius locked Danae in a bronze tower to keep her from having children. But Zeus, transforming into a shower of gold, visited her and fathered Perseus. When Acrisius discovered the birth, terrified, he cast Danae and her baby adrift in a chest on the sea. This cruel act marks the start of Perseus's heroic journey, facing dangers and challenges imposed by external forces from the moment he was born. Perseus's youth was shaped by his upbringing far from the intrigues of royal courts. He was rescued by Dictys, a kind and humble fisherman on the island of Seriphos, who raised him as his own son. On this island, away from grand palaces and political schemes, Perseus grew up with a simple but value-driven education, rooted in courage, justice, and loyalty. Yet, the presence of King Polydectes, Dictys's tyrannical brother and ruler of Seriphos, created constant tension. Polydectes coveted Danae and saw Perseus as an obstacle to his plans. This situation placed the young hero in a challenging position, where his destiny began to take shape not just through his divine origins, but also through the adversities surrounding him. Greek mythology uses this initial setup to introduce a world filled with danger, intrigue, and supernatural elements, setting the stage for the heroic journey Perseus is about to embark on. Thus, Perseus's origin and early life are key to understanding his motivations and the symbolic significance of his future actions. The impossible challenge. The moment King Polydectes issues his challenge to Perseus is a pivotal point in the story, showcasing both the king's cruelty and the courage required for the hero to begin his journey. Polydectes, eager to eliminate Perseus from his mother Danae's life and solidify his control over Seriphos, uses a cunning ploy to place the young hero in an impossible situation. He announces his marriage and demands that all guests bring gifts. But Perseus, raised humbly under Dictys's care, has nothing to offer. Seizing this vulnerability, Polydectes demands the unthinkable, the head of Medusa, one of mythology's most feared monsters. This demand isn't just an attempt to humiliate Perseus, but a clear strategy to remove him permanently, expecting him to fail in a mission that seems doomed to disaster. Medusa is one of the 3 Gorgons, terrifying creatures living in a remote, inhospitable place, often described as an isolated island. She and her sisters are monstrous beings whose appearance strikes fear into anyone who sees them. Medusa's most infamous trait is her hair, made of writhing, hissing snakes. But her deadliest power is her gaze. Anyone who meets her eyes is instantly turned to stone, a cruel fate that condemns her victims to eternal immobility. This supernatural ability makes Perseus's mission nearly suicidal, as he cannot simply confront her head-on without suffering the same fate. The other 2 Gorgons, Stheno and Eurydice, are immortal, while Medusa is mortal, which explains why Polydectes targets her head, as it can be severed and used as a powerful weapon even after her death. The mythology emphasizes the Gorgon's terrifying and near-invincible nature, highlighting the immense difficulty of the challenge. Facing Medusa means not only confronting a creature of horrific appearance, but also a power that can annihilate with a single glance. This context intensifies the perception of the mission as impossible for any mortal, making Perseus's courage and cunning essential for his survival and success. The challenge is not just a physical test, but a battle against fear and the unknown, defining the true essence of a hero in Greek mythology. The role of the gods and divine gifts. In Greek mythology, divine intervention is a crucial element that sets a legendary hero apart from an ordinary one. For Perseus, the impossible mission to obtain Medusa's head would be unattainable without the aid and support of the gods, who provide not only tools, but also protection and wisdom to face a challenge beyond human capabilities. Athena, goddess of wisdom and strategy, and Hermes, the messenger god and patron of travelers, are Perseus's primary supporters in this quest. They represent the direct connection between the divine and mortal worlds, reinforcing the idea that a hero's success depends on both personal courage and celestial favor. Athena provides Perseus with a polished shield, a critical tool for his strategy against Medusa. The shield's surface is so brilliant and smooth that it acts as a mirror. Knowing that looking directly at Medusa would turn him to stone, Perseus can use the shield to see her reflection, avoiding her deadly gaze. This gift symbolizes not only a physical weapon, but also the importance of intelligence and cunning in battle. The hero must use foresight and indirect vision to triumph over mortal danger. Hermes contributes a pair of winged sandals that grant Perseus the ability to fly swiftly and with great agility. These magical sandals are essential for reaching the Gorgon's remote lair, a place difficult to access, and for a quick escape after the mission. The mobility provided by the sandals shows that, beyond physical strength, speed and maneuverability are key to a hero's success. Hermes also gives Perseus a razor-sharp sword capable of cutting through the toughest materials, a vital tool for decapitating Medusa with precision and efficiency. Additionally, Perseus receives a special sack, known as the kibisis, which is lightweight, durable, and capable of safely containing Medusa's head. This magical item ensures he can transport his trophy without risking petrification or losing control of its deadly power. Each of these gifts carries symbolic meaning, reinforcing the interdependence between humans and gods in Greek mythology. They show that true heroism combines courage, intelligence, divine aid, and specialized tools to overcome seemingly impossible challenges. Thus, the role of the gods and their gifts in Perseus's journey is indispensable, adding a supernatural dimension that makes the story even more epic and inspiring. The journey to the Gorgon's lair. Perseus's mission leads him to one of the most feared and mysterious places in Greek mythology, the Gorgon's lair. This location is described as remote, isolated, and filled with supernatural dangers, shrouded in a sinister atmosphere nearly impenetrable to mortals. Legends portray the Gorgon's home as a desolate, rugged terrain, with jagged rocks, thick mists, and perpetual shadows, creating a perfect setting for such monstrous beings to dwell far from human eyes. The journey to this place is not just a physical crossing, but a test of endurance and courage, as Perseus must face both natural challenges and the occult forces guarding the Gorgon's realm. On his way, Perseus encounters the Graeae, the Gorgon's sisters, who are equally enigmatic and eerie figures. Unlike the Gorgons, the Graeae are depicted as three ancient women who share a single eye and a single tooth, passing them between each other as needed. This peculiar trait symbolizes their fragility and interdependence, but also presents a weakness that Perseus cleverly exploits. The Graeae hold critical secrets about the Gorgon's whereabouts and how to defeat them, making them key to the mission's success. With intelligence and bravery, Perseus devises a strategy to extract the necessary information. He waits until the Graeae are passing their shared eye and swiftly steals it, holding it hostage. Without their eye, the sisters are desperate and vulnerable, forced to cooperate with Perseus to regain it. This clever move demonstrates Perseus's ability to use not just strength, but also cunning to turn the situation in his favor. By seizing the eye, he gains control and secures the information needed to find and confront Medusa. The encounter with the Graeae reinforces the Greek ideal that a hero must blend strength, intelligence, and unconventional strategies to overcome seemingly insurmountable obstacles, making his journey all the more epic and symbolic. The confrontation with Medusa. The battle between Perseus and Medusa is the climax of his heroic journey, a moment charged with tension, danger, and extraordinary courage. Perseus knows he cannot look directly at the creature, as a single glance into her eyes would turn him to stone. He relies on the polished shield gifted by Athena as a vital tool for survival. The shield acts as a mirror, allowing Perseus to track Medusa's movements indirectly, requiring absolute focus and mastery of his senses. This technique underscores the importance of cunning and strategy in a confrontation that relies not just on brute strength, but on outsmarting a deadly foe. As he faces Medusa, the atmosphere is thick with tension. The hero stands before a terrifying monster whose gaze can kill in an instant. Perseus feels the adrenaline of the fight, but also the constant presence of divine aid guiding him. The intervention of Athena and Hermes, through their magical gifts and guidance, is crucial for him to stay calm and execute each move with precision. This blend of personal courage, refined technique, and supernatural support reflects the ideal of the Greek hero, who transcends human limitations by relying on divine gifts and his own wit. The moment of Medusa's decapitation is dramatic and decisive. Moving with agility and care, Perseus uses the sharp sword to sever the monster's head with a swift, precise strike. The danger doesn't end with the cut. Even after death, Medusa's head retains its lethal power, and Perseus must immediately store it in the kibisis to avoid being petrified. This action demands speed and absolute control, as any mistake could cost his life. The victory symbolizes not only the defeat of a physical challenge, but the conquest of fear and the unknown, cementing Perseus as a hero capable of facing the impossible. Medusa's head, beyond serving as proof of his heroism, becomes a powerful artifact he will wield in future battles, solidifying his place among the greatest heroes of Greek mythology. The head as a weapon and symbol of power. After decapitating Medusa, her head retains its extraordinary and terrifying power, becoming a significant object in Greek mythology. Even severed, it can still turn anyone who meets its gaze to stone. This ability elevates Medusa's head beyond a mere trophy, making it a fearsome weapon capable of protection or punishment. Its petrifying power grants it a symbolic status of absolute authority, transcending the creature's life and embodying control over fear and death. Perseus fully understands the value and danger of the head, handling it with utmost care and respect. He stores it in the special kibisis, ensuring its deadly power remains contained and doesn't turn against him or his allies. The head is not just a prize, but a strategic tool Perseus can use in critical moments to subdue enemies and protect the innocent. It symbolizes the transformation of fear into strength and the hero's triumph over the impossible. By wielding this weapon, Perseus demonstrates both his courage and wisdom, positioning himself among the greatest heroes and aligning him closer to the divine. The return and new adventures with Medusa's head. After securing Medusa's head, Perseus begins his journey back to Seriphos, but his adventures are far from over. The head becomes a powerful tool he uses to face enemies and challenges along the way, further cementing his reputation as an invincible hero. One of the most iconic episodes is the rescue of Andromeda, a princess condemned to be sacrificed to a terrifying sea monster as punishment for her mother, Queen Cassiopeia's, arrogance. Andromeda is chained to a rock, helpless against the creature that threatens not only her life, but her entire kingdom. Perseus arrives and immediately recognizes the gravity of the situation. Without hesitation, he uses Medusa's head as a decisive weapon. By revealing it to the sea monster, its petrifying gaze instantly turns the creature to stone, eliminating the threat and saving Andromeda. This heroic act not only rescues the princess, but strengthens Perseus's fame as a protector of the innocent and a warrior armed with supernatural power. The rescue of Andromeda is more than a physical feat. It symbolizes the triumph of courage and justice over fear and tyranny. Beyond this episode, Perseus continues to use Medusa's head to defeat other enemies and solidify his power. His return to Seriphos culminates in the defeat of King Polydectes, who sought to eliminate him, using the same powerful weapon to turn the tyrant and his followers to stone. These new adventures show that Perseus's heroism extends beyond his original mission, expanding into multiple tales of bravery, justice, and divine intervention. Medusa's head, thus, transcends its role as a trophy, becoming an enduring symbol of the triumph of good over evil, forever marking Perseus's legend in mythological and cultural history. The final confrontation with Polydectes. Perseus's return to Seriphos marks the climactic moment of his heroic journey, where he directly confronts King Polydectes, whose tyranny and ambition had endangered both his life and his mother Danae's safety. Polydectes, who from the start aimed to eliminate Perseus to gain unchallenged control over Seriphos, never expected the young hero to return so powerful and determined. The atmosphere on the island is charged with tension, as the king relies on his authority and allies to maintain his oppressive rule, while Perseus wields a supernatural power that will reshape the island's fate. Upon arriving, Perseus finds Polydectes surrounded by his followers, ready to quash any threat to his reign. But Perseus needs no conventional force, as he carries Medusa's head, a weapon of unparalleled power. With resolve and control, he reveals the head to the king and his men, and its deadly gaze instantly turns Polydectes and his followers to stone. This act is not just a display of strength but a symbolic moment of divine justice, punishing those who abuse power and harm the innocent. Using Medusa's head in this final confrontation reaffirms Perseus's role as an agent of balance and defender of order. He not only saves his mother and himself, but also liberates Seriphos from Polydectes' oppressive rule, restoring peace and justice. This resolution completes the cycle of his adventure, showing that true heroism lies in the courage to face enemies, the wisdom to use tools responsibly, and the strength to protect loved ones. The transformation of Polydectes and his followers into stone stands as an eternal reminder of the triumph of good over evil and the importance of justice in maintaining social and moral harmony. The legacy and consequences of the mission. After completing his mission and overcoming unimaginable challenges, Perseus offers Medusa's head to Athena, who incorporates it into her shield, known as the Aegis. This act symbolizes the transfer of Medusa's power to a sacred object that protects and inspires both gods and mortals. The Aegis, adorned with the Gorgon's head, becomes a symbol of divine protection, invincibility, and justice, representing the balance between destructive power and the wisdom that must guide it. This connection between Perseus and Athena reinforces the idea that his mission was not just a test of strength, but an act of service to the divine and human worlds, meant to preserve order and goodness. With his victory and the delivery of Medusa's head, Perseus becomes a legendary figure, recognized as a hero who embodies the ideal blend of intelligence, courage, and divine intervention. His name becomes synonymous with strategic bravery, where success depends not only on physical strength, but on the wise use of available resources. This image of Perseus as a model hero influences generations, inspiring tales, artistic depictions, and reflections on the individual's role in facing life's challenges. He is remembered as the one who confronts the impossible, faces fear with determination, and respects the greater forces guiding fate. Over the centuries, the myth of Perseus and Medusa's head has profoundly influenced culture and art. From classical antiquity to modern times, this story appears in sculptures, paintings, literature, theater, and film, each interpretation adding new layers of meaning. The image of Perseus holding Medusa's head symbolizes the hero's triumph over chaos and monstrosity, reflecting universal themes like confronting inner fears, battling injustice, and the power of redemption. Perseus's legacy transcends Greek mythology, becoming an eternal source of inspiration that connects past, present, and future in humanity's quest for courage, wisdom, and justice. The story of Perseus and Medusa offers profound lessons beyond a simple heroic adventure. A central theme is courage in the face of the impossible. Perseus doesn't defeat monsters with brute force alone, but with intelligence, cunning, and planning. This teaches that true courage involves using the mind to overcome obstacles, recognizing one's limits, and finding creative solutions in extreme danger. Another key aspect is the importance of help and cooperation. Perseus receives critical support from Athena, Hermes, and other allies who provide indispensable gifts and guidance. This shows that even the greatest heroes don't act alone. Success often depends on accepting help, trusting partners, and recognizing external forces that strengthen the journey. This collaboration, including unexpected and powerful allies, underscores the value of connections and alliances. The power of cunning and strategy is essential for overcoming deadly challenges. Perseus uses tools like the mirrored shield to avoid Medusa's gaze, demonstrating control over his emotions and intelligence in dealing with the Gorgons and their guardians. This lesson shows that success in extreme danger relies on careful observation, strategic planning, and minimizing risks while maximizing outcomes. Finally, the story reflects on how the hero transforms a threat into power. Perseus not only defeats Medusa, but harnesses her power as a weapon and symbol of authority and protection. This transformation is a metaphor for humanity's ability to turn fears, challenges, and adversities into strengths that enhance action and resilience. The hero teaches that by facing danger with courage and intelligence, one can not only survive, but emerge stronger and better prepared for future challenges. This message resonates today, encouraging resilience and wisdom in times of crisis. Story 3: Prometheus and the Fire of Humanity. Prometheus is a central figure in Greek mythology, known as a titan who played a pivotal role in the creation and development of humanity. He is the son of Iapetus, one of the primordial titans, and Clymene, an Oceanid, placing him among the ancient deities that preceded the Olympian gods. Unlike many titans who were overthrown or punished by the Olympians, Prometheus stands out for his direct connection to humanity, whom he aided and protected. In mythology, Prometheus is often depicted as the creator of human beings. In some versions, he molded the first humans from clay, giving them form and life. Beyond this, he is seen as humanity's mentor, teaching them not just survival, but also the culture, science, and arts that would lead to their progress. He symbolizes intelligence, creativity, and the fight for human emancipation against divine powers. Prometheus's relationship with the Olympian gods, particularly Zeus, is complex and marked by conflict. While the Olympians ruled the universe and maintained divine order, Prometheus challenged their authority by favoring humans. Zeus, as the leader of the gods, viewed Prometheus's interference as a threat to his power. This tension drives the dramatic narrative surrounding Prometheus, blending themes of rebellion, sacrifice, and protection of humanity against divine tyranny. The creation of humanity. According to Greek mythology, Prometheus was responsible for creating the first humans, shaping them from clay with great skill and care. This act symbolizes not only the physical emergence of humanity, but also the beginning of the human condition, marked by rationality, consciousness, and free will. By forming humans, Prometheus didn't just create living beings, but endowed them with intelligence, capable of learning, creating, and transforming the world around them. This creation marks a divide between the divine and mortal realms, establishing humans as distinct though limited beings among Earth's creatures. In mythology, the contrast between humans and gods is stark and fundamental. While gods are eternal, immortal, and possess supernatural powers, humans are fragile, mortal, and limited in strength and knowledge. This difference creates a natural hierarchy, where humans rely on gods for protection and provision. However, Prometheus, by acting in humanity's favor, seeks to bridge this gap, helping humans overcome their initial weaknesses and develop as autonomous beings. Thus, the creation of humans is not just a material event, but an introduction to the struggle for survival and progress against the constraints of mortality. Before receiving Prometheus's gift of fire, humans lived in extreme vulnerability. They lacked protection from the elements, had no efficient means to cook food or stay warm, and were at the mercy of predators and harsh weather. This fragility represented a primitive state where survival was precarious and the future uncertain. These limitations highlight the necessity of knowledge and technology, symbolized by fire, for humanity to evolve, gain autonomy, and improve its quality of life. This early stage underscores humanity's dependence and the critical role of fire as a turning point in their journey on Earth. The gift of fire, meaning and importance. The fire given by Prometheus to humanity was a transformative milestone in the development of civilization. Before fire, humans lived in dire conditions, without warmth to endure cold, light to dispel the darkness of night, or the ability to cook food, which limited their nutrition and health. Fire also offered protection against wild animals and other natural dangers, creating a safer environment for early human communities. Thus, mastering fire marked a turning point, enabling greater autonomy against nature's challenges and a leap in quality of life. Without fire, humans were at a clear disadvantage compared to gods and the wild world. While gods possessed limitless powers and resources, humans were vulnerable and exposed, subject to the elements and natural forces. The absence of fire symbolized this inferiority and fragility, reinforcing human dependence on divine beings. Prometheus's act of stealing fire was a direct challenge to the divine order, an attempt to level the playing field by giving humans a tool to defend themselves and progress. Fire also carries profound symbolism in mythology and human culture. It is not just a practical tool, but a symbol of knowledge, progress, and civilization. It represents the spark of understanding that illuminates the darkness of ignorance, the drive that pushes humanity to overcome natural limits and transform the world. Fire is the engine of innovation, the emblem of human creativity, and the relentless pursuit of improvement, cementing its place as one of Prometheus's greatest legacies to humanity. The theft of fire. Driven by compassion and a desire to uplift humanity, Prometheus decided to steal fire from the gods and give it to humans, who were languishing in vulnerability. This was no simple task. It required cunning and courage. According to the myth, Prometheus approached Olympus, where divine fire was guarded, and with skill and audacity, he captured a sacred ember, hiding it in a hollow reed or torch, depending on the version. This act demanded strategy and boldness, as he knew he would face Zeus's wrath, the king of the gods. The theft of fire represents a direct challenge to Zeus's authority, who had forbidden humans from accessing this essential element. By defying this order, Prometheus risked his own safety and broke the established hierarchy between gods and mortals. His bravery symbolizes the fight for freedom and human emancipation, prioritizing humanity's well-being over divine commands. This moment is iconic, marking a rupture in the power dynamic, with Prometheus positioning himself as a protector, willing to face punishment to grant humans a vital resource. Beyond its narrative, the theft of fire carries strong symbolic weight. It represents the courage to question and defy oppressive authority, the pursuit of knowledge, and the empowerment of the vulnerable. Prometheus becomes a symbol of constructive rebellion, resistance against tyranny, and sacrifice for progress and human dignity. This episode emphasizes the conflict between established order and the need for social and intellectual transformation, making the theft of fire one of the most powerful and inspiring myths in Western culture. Zeus's reaction and Prometheus's punishment. When Zeus discovered that Prometheus had stolen fire for humanity, his anger was swift and severe. To him, this act was not just gross disobedience, but an affront to his supreme authority as king of the gods. Zeus saw Prometheus's actions as a threat to the divine order and a risk that humans might become too powerful, which he could not allow. His reaction was harsh, demonstrating the weight of the hierarchy between gods and mortals and his intolerance for any challenge to that balance. As punishment for his rebellion, Zeus condemned Prometheus to eternal suffering. He was chained to a rock on the Caucasus Mountains, where a giant eagle came daily to eat his liver. As an immortal titan, Prometheus's liver regenerated each night, making the torture endless and excruciating. This cruel punishment was not just physical, but a symbolic consequence of defying the gods' order, a warning to any other deity or mortal considering similar defiance. The eternal nature of Prometheus's suffering carries profound meaning in Greek mythology. It represents the cost of sacrifice for humanity's sake and the ongoing struggle between freedom and authority, progress and control. By enduring unending pain, Prometheus becomes a figure of resistance and perseverance, symbolizing the idea that progress and knowledge often demand difficult sacrifices. This narrative also reflects the complexity of the relationship between power and justice, showing that courageous acts can face severe punishment but cannot erase their importance or impact for the greater good. The consequences for humanity.
The fire brought by Prometheus radically transformed human life, marking the dawn of a new era. With fire, humans gained access to warmth to survive harsh climates, light to extend activities beyond daylight, and the ability to cook food, improving nutrition and health. Fire also warded off predators and enabled the creation of more effective tools, facilitating hunting, building, and defense.
This transformation was not just practical, but symbolized liberation from natural limitations, paving the way for humanity to become more independent and powerful against a hostile environment. Thanks to fire, human civilization advanced significantly in various domains. Technologically, fire enabled the development of new tools and techniques, such as metallurgy, which relied on fire to melt and shape metals. Culturally, fire became central to rituals, celebrations, and the transmission of knowledge, symbolizing wisdom and creative inspiration. Socially, controlling fire fostered more organized communities, as gathering around a fire encouraged cooperation, dialogue, and the building of social bonds. Thus, fire became a cornerstone upon which human societies began to structure and thrive. Humans, aware of the vital impact fire had on their lives, developed deep respect and gratitude for Prometheus, recognizing him as a true benefactor and protector. Despite knowing the terrible punishment he faced for his audacity, they honored his courage and generosity, seeing him as a symbol of hope and the fight for survival and progress. This admiration reinforces the myth's importance, highlighting the connection between the gift of fire and the value of solidarity and sacrifice for humanity. Prometheus remains an iconic figure representing the human spirit of resistance, innovation, and the relentless pursuit of improvement and knowledge. Prometheus as a symbol. Prometheus is widely recognized as a powerful symbol of rebellion, courage, and sacrifice for the greater good. His act of defying the gods to benefit humanity represents the fight against tyranny and injustice, even at the cost of severe punishment and eternal suffering. He embodies the spirit of resistance that challenges established power to promote freedom and progress, inspiring the courage needed to face adversity for noble causes. Prometheus's sacrifice is seen as an altruistic act, prioritizing the collective good over personal comfort and safety, establishing him as a tragic and exemplary hero. Over the centuries, Prometheus's image has deeply permeated culture, philosophy, and the arts. In literature, he appears in classical and modern works as a symbol of humanity's quest for knowledge and emancipation. Poets, playwrights, and philosophers have explored his myth to reflect on themes like power, justice, innovation, and the human condition. In painting and sculpture, Prometheus is depicted in moments of pain and bravery, emphasizing his role as an archetype of necessary suffering for transformation. His myth has also influenced philosophical movements, particularly those valuing reason, questioning, and the fight for autonomy against oppressive structures. Prometheus represents, above all, the human spirit's relentless pursuit of knowledge and freedom. He symbolizes the curiosity that drives humanity to push beyond limits, innovate, and challenge the status quo for a better future. His story reflects the ambivalence of this quest, showing that the path to progress can be arduous and filled with sacrifices. But these challenges are part of the human condition. Thus, Prometheus remains a powerful reference for those who value knowledge, independence, and the courage to transform the world, inspiring generations to never abandon the pursuit of light, both literal and metaphorical. Prometheus's role in other myths. Prometheus is directly linked to various other Greek myths, forming a web of stories that explain fundamental aspects of the human condition. One of the most notable is the myth of Pandora and her box, or jar, often told alongside Prometheus's tale. After the theft of fire and the gift of knowledge to humans, Zeus decided to punish humanity indirectly by creating Pandora, the first woman, who was given a box containing all the world's evils. When Pandora opened it, these evils, suffering, disease, pain, and other adversities, spread among humanity. This myth explains the origin of human misfortunes, contrasting with the gift of fire, which symbolizes progress and hope. The connection between Prometheus and Pandora is profound, as both myths address the balance between benefits and punishments, progress and challenges. While Prometheus grants humans fire, knowledge, and the ability to overcome limitations, Pandora's box introduces the inevitable hardships of life, including suffering. Yet even in this grim scenario, a spark remains. Hope, left within the box, sustains humanity through adversity. This duality explains the human condition as a complex mix of pain and hope, progress and difficulty, showing that suffering is part of existence, but hope drives people forward. Thus, Prometheus's myth not only narrates the gift of an essential tool for human survival, but connects to a broader explanation of the origins of suffering and hope. It highlights the complexity of human existence, where advances and punishments coexist, emphasizing that even in the greatest challenges, hope is a vital force enabling humanity to persist and pursue knowledge and freedom. Prometheus stands as a central mediator between the divine and mortal, power and vulnerability, sacrifice and redemption. Philosophical and cultural interpretations. Prometheus has been a subject of deep reflection in Western thought, spanning philosophy, literature, and psychology. Philosophers like Hegel and Nietzsche interpreted Prometheus as a symbol of humanity's struggle for autonomy and overcoming limitations imposed by nature or divine authority. In modern philosophy, he is often associated with the critical spirit and rational drive to understand and transform reality, even at the cost of conflict or punishment. In literature, writers across eras have explored his myth to discuss rebellion, sacrifice, progress, and ethical dilemmas tied to knowledge. In psychology, Prometheus can represent the unconscious challenging control, expressing itself through creativity and knowledge. The myth also parallels figures in other cultures, symbolizing forbidden or stolen knowledge. For example, in Judeo-Christian mythology, Adam and Eve's transgression in eating the forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge brings both enlightenment and punishment to humanity. In Mesoamerican cultures, gods who grant wisdom or fire to humans often face sacrifices or punishments, reflecting a universal theme of the cost of knowledge and the balance between power and responsibility. These comparisons show that Prometheus's myth expresses a common concern across traditions: the price of human advancement and the ethical consequences of defying established limits. In the modern era, Prometheus's influence is evident in ideas of progress, science, and ethics. He embodies the ideal that scientific and technological knowledge should serve to improve the human condition, even if it involves risks. The myth sparks debates about the ethical boundaries of science, the role of innovation, and the responsibilities of those wielding knowledge. Prometheus is an ambiguous symbol, celebrating human potential while warning of the dangers of misusing knowledge. His story continues to fuel essential reflections on balancing the desire for progress with the need for ethical responsibility, making him a cornerstone of contemporary thought. Prometheus's legacy remains powerful in today's world, marked by rapid technological advancements and ethical dilemmas. His story is a compelling metaphor for modern struggles for freedom, innovation, and justice. Prometheus represents the restless spirit driving humanity to break barriers, challenge authorities, and forge new paths, even at great personal cost. His figure inspires both admiration and reflection on the limits and consequences of human choices in the face of power and knowledge. In a world where technology advances at breakneck speed, Prometheus's myth invites critical analysis of the costs of development. Issues like environmental exploitation, artificial intelligence, genetic manipulation, and unequal access to knowledge echo the dilemmas Prometheus faced. How far should we go in our pursuit of power and wisdom? What responsibilities come with the gift of knowledge? The myth warns that progress, while desirable, requires caution, ethics, and awareness of its social, moral, and human implications. Prometheus's message for today's world lies in the importance of responsibility in our achievements, the need for boldness to transform the world, and the power of hope as a driving force for resilience. He reminds us that great feats often demand the courage to challenge unjust structures, that true change involves risks, and that knowledge, while powerful, is only valuable when used for the collective good. Thus, Prometheus's myth remains alive, not as a relic of the past, but as a continuous call to reflect on who we are, what we seek, and how we choose to navigate our path as a civilization. Story 4. Orpheus and Eurydice, the love that descended to the underworld. In the vast world of Greek mythology, gods, heroes, and supernatural creatures shaped the destinies of mortals. Human lives were governed by higher forces, with every action and choice seemingly observed by divine eyes. In this universe where the extraordinary intertwined with the everyday, myths serve to explain not just natural phenomena, but also the most human emotions: love, pain, loss, and hope. It's within this rich tapestry of symbols and archetypes that the story of Orpheus and Eurydice unfolds, one of the most poignant narratives in classical mythology. Orpheus was a singular figure, even among mythology's great names. The son of Calliope, the muse of epic poetry and eloquence, and Apollo, the god of music and light, though some versions claim his father was Agris, a Thracian king. Orpheus inherited gifts that set him apart from humanity. His musical talent was so sublime, it transcended the natural world. With his lyre, a gift from Apollo, he could tame wild beasts, calm storms, and even make trees and stones sway toward him to hear his melodies. He was the embodiment of art that touches the soul, the ultimate artist whose music surpassed reason and spoke directly to the heart. It was this gift that brought him close to Eurydice, a nymph from Thrace, whose gentle steps and woodland beauty enchanted the fields and forests she roamed. More than beautiful, Eurydice was the pure expression of nature, an ethereal figure seemingly crafted to harmonize with Orpheus's music. When their paths crossed, a love blossomed, intense and inevitable, as if the gods had woven their essences together before time began. Bound by a connection that transcended the physical, Orpheus and Eurydice shared a rare, profound love, one that even fate seemed reluctant to challenge. But, like many mythological tales, the beauty of their love would be tested by suffering, loss, and the audacity to defy the boundaries of the underworld. The love between Orpheus and Eurydice. The bond between Orpheus and Eurydice was more than passion. It was a fusion of souls, a meeting of essences that seemed written in the stars by the gods themselves. When Orpheus played his lyre, it was as if he spoke directly to Eurydice, his music composed solely for her in a language only they understood. Their love wasn't shaped by fleeting desire or earthly impulses, but by a connection that surpassed human understanding. They were reflections of each other. He, the music that moved the heavens, and she, the sweetness of nature that bloomed with his art. Their marriage was celebrated with joy and reverence, not only among mortals but also among the deities and creatures of nature, who recognized the strength and beauty of their union. During the brief time they shared on earth, they lived in harmony and fulfillment, in a love that seemed immune to the world's tragedies. They sought neither power, wealth, nor prestige, content simply with each other's presence, with moments shared through melodies and silences that spoke louder than words. Eurydice found in Orpheus the security and enchantment of a spirit that translated the world into pure notes, and Orpheus saw in her the inspiration that gave meaning to his art. Their love was as serene as it was profound, built on mutual admiration, unconditional devotion, and a rare peace. There were no excesses, no masks, just a quiet truth between two beings who fully recognized each other. Yet this love was soon to face a brutal and irreversible test, revealing just how eternal it truly was: the death of Eurydice. The happiness of Orpheus and Eurydice was shattered by a tragic event that marked the beginning of one of Greek mythology's most heart-wrenching chapters. While wandering through the fields, Eurydice was ambushed by Aristaeus, a beekeeper and shepherd driven by desire and obsession, who tried to take her by force. Terrified, Eurydice fled through the forests, but fate dealt a cruel blow. In her desperate escape, she stepped on a snake hidden among the leaves. Its bite was swift and deadly. The venom coursed through her body, and within moments, she collapsed, lifeless, leaving behind a world that had been filled with love and beauty. When Orpheus learned of his wife's death, he plunged into a grief so profound that even the gods dared not console him. The light of his life had been snuffed out violently and prematurely. The man who once enchanted animals, rivers, and stones with his music became a shadow of himself. His fingers still played the lyre, but the melodies had changed. The music that once celebrated life's joy now carried the weight of absence, the ache of longing, the agony of loss. It was a sound that silenced the winds, hushed the birds, and brought tears to the god's eyes. His art transformed inevitably. Orpheus's songs became laments. Each note echoed a love torn away by death. His suffering was not just personal, but universal, giving voice to the grief every being, mortal or immortal, fears. In that moment, Orpheus ceased to be merely a musician. He became the embodiment of human pain, a symbol of what love endures when confronted with fate's brutality. Orpheus's decision: descending to the underworld. Unable to accept Eurydice's loss, Orpheus refused to move on as if nothing had happened. The void left by her absence was unbearable, and no earthly comfort could fill the chasm in his soul. Consumed by grief and driven by a love that defied the boundaries of the living world, Orpheus made an unthinkable decision. He would descend to the underworld to bring her back. This was not just an act of courage, but an unprecedented audacity, a mortal crossing the threshold of existence to confront death itself. The journey to Hades, the shadowy realm of the dead, was not just physical, but deeply symbolic. Each step toward the depths represented an inner plunge into a shattered soul, a dive into the unknown, fueled by a love that refused to end. Orpheus traversed dark, lonely paths, crossed the banks of the river Styx, faced Charon, the ferryman of the dead, and penetrated the shadows of the beyond where hope's light rarely reached. But his lyre, even steeped in sorrow, held power. Orpheus's music opened doors, calmed beasts, and made even the underworld's guardians pause before his melodies, laden with loss and determination. Orpheus's descent is more than a mythological episode. It is the archetypal representation of humanity's struggle against the inevitable. It is a direct confrontation with mortality, with the reality of death and separation. It is also the ultimate expression of faith in love as a transformative force. In Greek mythology, few acts are as symbolic as this. An ordinary man daring to enter the domain of the death gods, not for glory or power, but for love. Orpheus's journey shows that when love is true, it can lead to the darkest corners of existence, though the outcome remains uncertain. The encounter with Hades and Persephone. After passing through the gates of the underworld, Orpheus stood before its rulers. Hades, lord of the depths and final judge of souls, and Persephone, his queen, daughter of Demeter, who split her time between the worlds of the living and the dead. Orpheus came not with weapons or threats, but with his lyre, his pain, and a fragile hope sustained by love. In a gesture that defied the underworld's very nature, Orpheus began to play. Each note, heavy with longing, spoke louder than 1,000 words. His music was not just beautiful, it was sincere, pure, and devastating. He didn't ask for riches or demand justice. He pleaded only for the chance to reclaim the one torn from his life too soon. He sang of the love he shared with Eurydice, the pain of her loss, the emptiness that had settled in his soul. In a place where emotions were typically silenced by eternal forgetfulness, his music did the impossible. It brought tears to eyes that no longer wept. Hades, known for his sternness and impartiality, listened in silence. Persephone, accustomed to the underworld's darkness, was touched by a rare light emanating from Orpheus's melody. And then, something extraordinary happened. The underworld's gods, immortal and immune to human suffering, were moved. Moved by the strength of that love and the courage of that act, they granted Orpheus what no mortal had ever achieved: permission to take Eurydice back to the world of the living. But this gift came with a catch, simple in appearance but cruel in essence. Throughout the journey back, Orpheus had to walk ahead of Eurydice without looking back until they were fully out of the underworld. A single glance would break the pact, and she would be lost forever. It was a test of faith, trust, and control, a foreshadowing of how fragile hope can be when tested at the boundary between life and death. The cruel condition: don't look back. The permission granted by Hades and Persephone came with a relentless condition. Orpheus had to lead Eurydice back to the surface without ever looking at her during the journey. Only when they were completely out of the underworld could he turn to see his beloved. It was a simple rule in words, but profoundly cruel in meaning. It wasn't just an arbitrary demand, but a final test of faith, trust, and self-control, imposed on a wounded heart teetering between hope and despair. The return became a silent, tense journey. Orpheus walked ahead, sensing Eurydice's presence behind him but unable to confirm it with his eyes. With each step, the silence grew heavier. There were no words between them, no assurances, only the promise that she followed, invisible, amid shadows and echoes. For someone who loved so deeply, trusting without seeing was an almost unbearable sacrifice. The fear that something had gone wrong, that the gods had changed their minds, or that she was too far behind grew with every moment. This journey carried universal symbolism. The prohibition against looking back is both a metaphor for the future and the blind trust life often demands. Orpheus had to believe in the love that bound them, believe that his music had truly moved the gods, and that his beloved followed, even without visible proof. The ascent became a spiritual trial, where hope had to outweigh fear, and looking back represented the doubt that destroys what one seeks to rebuild. The condition imposed by Hades was more than a physical challenge. It mirrored one of humanity's greatest weaknesses: the difficulty of trusting in the unseen, of maintaining faith when all is uncertain. At this point, Orpheus's story becomes a reflection of the human soul, which often wavers between reason and emotion, hope and anxiety, love and the fear of loss. The final tragedy, the fatal glance. The exit from the underworld was near. The darkness began to give way to light, and Orpheus could feel the air of the surface brushing his skin. Only a few steps remained to fulfill the promise and free Eurydice. But at that threshold between the end of the ordeal and the realization of his desire, Orpheus faltered. Overwhelmed by growing anguish and suffocating doubt built up during the journey, he turned back. Just for a moment. An instinctive, desperate gesture, as if he needed to confirm with his own eyes that she was truly there. Eurydice was there. Behind him, silent, mere steps from freedom, but still within the underworld's bounds. And because of that glance, that single fatal glance, everything unraveled. Before his eyes, she began to fade, drawn back into the shadows. There was no time for cries or pleas. Hades did not relent. Persephone did not intervene. The condition had been broken, and with it, the hope of salvation. Eurydice was taken back, this time without return. The separation was now final, sealed not by death but by Orpheus's failure to resist doubt. What followed was the deepest silence in all of mythology. Orpheus, consumed by grief, stood motionless for a time no one could measure. The loss was crueler than the first. Now he knew the taste of possibility, of near redemption, and it was precisely that which was taken from him. His music, once enchanting to gods and men, became a dry lament, an expression of absolute emptiness. Orpheus's tragedy lies not just in losing his beloved, but in knowing he caused it. His love was strong enough to descend to the dead, but doubt proved stronger than faith at the critical moment. This final moment carries powerful symbolism. It shows how the human soul, even in the grandeur of love, is vulnerable to uncertainty. Orpheus's glance is the act of all those who, on the brink of victory, succumb to the fear that it isn't real. And so, the story ends with a pain that echoes beyond death itself. The pain of knowing it almost was, but wasn't. That he almost had her, but lost her. That he almost saved her, but failed. The solitude and end of Orpheus. After Eurydice's final loss, Orpheus sank into a profound solitude that distanced him from all that once brought him joy. The light of the living world, festivities, gatherings, and even the music that once captivated crowds lost their shine. Consumed by grief and pain, he became reclusive, withdrawing from mortal society. Orpheus could no longer find meaning in life without his beloved. His heart was shattered, and the hope that once drove him to the underworld turned into an immense void. Even as other women showed interest, Orpheus remained indifferent. No love could replace Eurydice, and he rejected any attempt to fill his emptiness with anything less than what he had lost. His music changed drastically. Once filled with beauty, allure, and joy, his songs now reflected only themes of death, loss, and suffering. The lyre that once enchanted gods, men, and animals now expressed only the eternal sorrow of a love that could never be fully realized. Orpheus's end is marked by tragedy, varying by the version of the legend. In one well-known account, he is killed by the Maenads, frenzied priestesses of Dionysus, who, enraged by his rejection of their rites and festivities, attack and dismember him. Other versions suggest he was murdered by thieves or took his own life, unable to bear the pain of loss. Whatever the version, Orpheus's death reflects a life defined by love and tragedy, an inevitable fate for one who dared to challenge the boundaries set by the gods. Thus, Orpheus's life ends in a melancholic silence, his legend enduring as a symbol of passion that transcends life and death, but also reveals human limitations in the face of inexorable fate. His story invites reflection on the power of love, the pain of loss, and the complex interplay of hope and despair that defines the human experience. The legacy of Orpheus. Orpheus is more than a mythological figure. He is a symbol that transcends time, culture, and even life and death. His legend gave rise to the Orphic religion, a spiritual movement in ancient Greece that sought answers about the soul, immortality, and purification. The Orphics saw Orpheus not just as a poet or musician, but as a sacred intermediary, capable of connecting the living world with the realm of the dead. He represented the hope of transcendence, the possibility that the human soul could escape the body's confines and achieve existence beyond earthly suffering. Orpheus's music, described as capable of moving gods and infernal beings, symbolizes the power of art in its purest, most universal form. This music transcends time, resonating not only in myths but also in culture, literature, philosophy, and art across centuries. Orpheus embodies the human creativity that can transform reality, move hearts, and open invisible doors to spiritual dimensions. His story shows how art can surpass the physical and immediate, touching the depths of the soul. Moreover, Orpheus is a symbol of love in its most intense and transcendent form. His myth reveals how love can drive unimaginable challenges, pushing humanity to confront death, fear, and the unknown. But it also shows the limitations of that love when faced with the fragility of trust and hope. In essence, Orpheus represents the transformative power of art and love, capable of lifting humanity to great heights, but also plunging it into painful depths. This duality makes his legacy eternally relevant and profoundly human, inspiring generations to seek meaning, courage, and beauty amid life's adversities. The myth of Orpheus and Eurydice is far more than a tragic love story. It serves as a powerful metaphor for the human condition in its deepest essence. Eurydice's loss symbolizes the inevitable ruptures we all face in life, losses that cause pain, despair, and an emptiness that seems impossible to fill. At the same time, the myth reveals the strength of hope and courage, embodied in Orpheus's decision to descend to the underworld for his beloved. This journey symbolizes the inner struggle each person faces when confronting their own shadows, fears, and the unknown. A central dilemma of the myth is the test of faith. The requirement not to look back is an invitation to trust without seeing, to believe in the invisible. This reflects a universal challenge we face in life, whether pursuing a dream, hoping for a fresh start, or overcoming deep pain. The myth questions how far our capacity to believe goes when certainty is absent, and how fear can erode even the purest, most sincere feelings. Orpheus's fatal glance reveals that doubt, though human, can be the barrier between life and realization, between love and permanent loss. Ultimately, the lingering message is both melancholic and inspiring. Even the purest, truest love is subject to the limits of human existence: time, fragility, fear, and mortality. Yet it is precisely this struggle, this imperfection, that makes Orpheus's myth so profound and enduring. Through art, represented by Orpheus's music and poetry, love leaves eternal marks, transcending time and death, continuing to touch souls across generations. The myth invites us to reflect on the transformative power of love and art, and how, even in the face of the greatest losses, we can find meaning and beauty. So, did you enjoy these incredible stories of Greek gods and heroes? If you did, don't forget to give this a thumbs up to let us know you want more content like this. And be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any new adventures. Before you drift off, take a moment to leave a comment below, even something simple like watching this before bed. It helps us keep bringing you these wonderful stories and shares this content with more mythology lovers out there. If you're feeling sleepy, thanks for staying with us. Get ready for a great night's sleep, and we'll see you at our next bedtime story session. But if you're still here and eager to learn more, click the video that pops up on your screen right now to continue this journey of knowledge. I'll be waiting for you there.